Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest semi-daily Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies. Today we got some more of that rSlash ProRevenge, hand-picked lovingly by our very own Lady Nyx. So I've never seen these stories before, but apparently they are absolutely stellar. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we got in here today. If you've got any stories that you'd like to see read, go ahead and drop a line in the comments. Maybe shoot something over to my email. You could also join the Discord, of course, and I'm always there, basically, if you need to get a hold of me for, like, some sort of emergency. Anyways, let's go ahead, jump right into these stories, and see what we got here today. Long-term implications.
Because if the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
Participants' names have been changed. Me, OP, the anti-hero. Timmy, the villain. Chuck, my accomplice. Carl, former friend. Kylie, female interest. Oh, female. Gianna, usage material. Whoa. What? This goes back 18-ish years ago, senior year of high school. I had a friend named Carl, who I regularly went to church with and hung out with at high school. He introduced me to a kid a grade below us named Timmy. Now, Timmy was a fat guy with a short fuse, and generally universally hated for being an arrogant yet dumb guy. You know the type. Everyone hates him, but he thinks he's cool and part of the popular crowd, but he's really socially oblivious. Kind of like a fat virgin version of Stifler from American Pie, or maybe like Jonah Hill from Superbad. I think that's Jonah Hill from Superbad to a T. Anyways, now through Carl and the church, I met this pretty little thing named Kylie. I was young and naive, but I developed a crush on her after hanging with her and Carl so often, but I was very shy around her. Carl knew that I liked her. What I didn't know was that Timmy liked her too. Fast forward a few months, and it's time for prom. I tell Carl that I was planning on asking Kylie out. He encourages me to do so. Good friend. He then tells Timmy what I'm about to do. Bad friend. Timmy decides to sabotage me in hopes of getting with Kylie and going to the prom with her. He tells her that the reason that I'm so shy around her is that I've been quietly collecting her hair and making it into a little dolly that I masturbate to. I'm dead. So when I went to ask Kylie out, she immediately rejects me, very publicly, and she warns me that she'll call the cops if I'm ever near her again. I'm crushed and humiliated. I ask Carl about Kylie's sudden views about me, and he tells me what Timmy did. I miss out on prom, and Carl gets distant with me. Dang. I run into Carl at church a week later, and I ask him how prom went. He tells me Kylie rejected Timmy and that he went to prom with her. Didn't reject Timmy? Whatever. He told me that it was just his friends, but now they were sort of dating. So me and Carl get into an argument, and then a physical fight at church, and I'm physically thrown out of the church. God's watching, dude. Okay, moving on. It's my second semester of my first year at college, and I'm still kind of pissed what Timmy and Carl did. More so with Timmy than anyone else. I'm in business law class, and there's this girl named Gianna sitting in front of me. Gianna is gorgeous. Gianna is Italian. Timmy is Italian, and Timmy likes Italian women. Harry. I have something here. I begin to talk to my friend Chuck about what I think I can do. He agrees. I find Gianna on MySpace and start copying her photos. I create a fake MySpace profile using her photos. I start adding friends of Timmy and have this whole elaborate page set up. Looks authentic. I even set up an AIM username. Dang! Lay the bait. Timmy eventually adds Gianna to his friends list. Then comes the heavy flirting through AIM. Timmy starts telling Gianna all his darkest fantasies as she flirts with him. He starts revealing the stuff that she'd be allowed to do to him in the bedroom. She even makes suggestions which he agrees to. He then grants Gianna access to his secretive live journal. His live journal where he talks smack about people at school. Jocks, cheerleaders, popular kids, teachers, principal. He says he'll beat up people on the football team, that he wants to bang the queen of the hot girls, that the girls' softball team is worthless, that all the jocks are stupid. All his little secrets are revealed to Gianna. What Timmy doesn't know is that Gianna is copying and pasting all of this, every chat, every live journal entry, into a Word file. And this goes on for the entire year, until the very last day of high school for Timmy. See, Chuck and I printed the Word file and went to the local library and made 6 additional copies. Each copy was like 80 pages of Timmy's confessions, so a total of 7 copies. Chuck also happens to be in the same grade as Timmy. So that night, we stuff Chuck's backpack full of copies, and I give Chuck specific instructions to drop off the copies around the school during the morning after first class. Then, to come by my friend Tony's house before the final bell rings. See, Tony lived behind the school parking lot, so we expected to see fireworks once the seniors were let out. Chuck comes by, and me and Tony are having beers by his pool, and I hand him a beer and we're all watching the school doors. Final bell rings. Timmy is the first one out the gate, full throttle, running, crying, beat up. Jocks of all type are chasing after him, threatening to kill him. The hot girls are calling him gay and fat. And some are even chasing after him. There has to be a herd of about 50 people chasing after him. This is nuclear revenge, dude. Something out of Black Friday at Walmart or like a zombie movie. He's running to his car. He gets to his car. The jocks are jumping on his car and punching and cracking the windows. He's trying to plow through the crowd. You can see that he's crying, blood covering his face. As he turns the corner, there are still jocks hanging onto the hood, trying to punch through. He speeds off onto the road, and I lose visibility of him. Me and Tony and Chuck are all dying laughing watching this unfold.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
I ran into Carl about 10 years later at a bar. He says to me, "I know what you did to Timmy. You ruined his reputation, right? Whenever people look him up, he's on a website dedicated to exposing creeps. He's been in therapy for years. His photography business could never get off the ground because of what you did to him. He's still living at home because of you." I sat there with my beer and took a swig and replied, "I simply don't know what you're talking about. I haven't spoken to Timmy since high school, but whatever the case may be, I don't care. He made poor choices in life, it seems." Jesus. Holy shit, dude. Wow! Out of the gate with a banger! Good lord. As much as I love this story, I gotta say, it's not a very churchly thing that you did there, OP. What about, like, turn the cheek and be kind to one another type? Well, whatever. It's your life, I suppose. You also made some poor choices, if I can be frank. And it obviously still weighs pretty heavily on you since you came to Reddit with it. Or maybe you just came to Reddit looking for a pat on the back, which I sort of gotta admit that I give you a little bit. My advice for Timmy, change your name. Move and change your name. Start over, dude. The rest of your life doesn't have to be like high school. And I mean, honestly, like, having a journal and stuff like that, it's not a bad thing. But yeah, you definitely wouldn't want it to get exposed or anything like that. Once upon a time, I had a journal too. Only I didn't really talk shit about the people that went to my school. It was mostly me, like, amping myself up, telling myself how cool the things that I did was. Which is totally dumb. It's like, hey bro, remember when you broke into your old elementary school to smoke weed on the roof and the cops came, but they let you go because you didn't steal anything? They thought that we were stealing computers, when in reality, me and my friends were just a bunch of stoners with stupid ideas in a car. and a pair of wire cutters. So that's still with me, years later. What, 15 years later? But that's kind of a good memory. But anyways, I gotta feel kind of bad about Timmy, you know. I don't even really know if the female interest Kylie liked OP at all. Maybe if Timmy hadn't said anything, he'd still be rejected and he wouldn't have anybody to blame but himself. But luckily Timmy stepped in and he's like, "You can blame me, bro. Put all your problems and sins on my shoulders." And OP surely did. It's crazy to me that basically the plot of Mean Girls, gender reversed, unfolded over just some stupid high school chick. Do you really think that you would have gotten married 10 years down the road, OP? Highly doubt it. So I don't know. I'd have an inward look. I'd probably feel a little bit bad about what happened. But you gotta admit that that is nuclear revenge. That is some spectacular fireworks that you set up for yourself. Oh my god. And all because you decided to catfish a child. Oh, everybody in the story is really a bag of trash, but I'll be damned if I'm not enjoying myself thoroughly. Oh, that is some good stuff. My god. I think you guys are all relatively young, aren't you? It's not too late. Everything will turn out just fine. Maybe. Anyways, let's jump into the next story and see what it do. Don't scam a bot developer. Ooh, Hacker Man.
Hey guys, I'm Hacker Man.
Hello, this is my first ever post here, and it might not be the best, but I thought that I'd share it. I develop bots for people on Discord, a chat platform for those who don't know. Hey, there's a Discord link in the description if you want to hang out with ReddX/DaytonDoes on a daily basis. One day, I checked for hiring in the developer server and I saw a job of making a simple bot for a cafe group. I messaged the owner and got the job. I coded the bot the next day and waited for a response from the owner. It turns out that the owner was taking a break from Discord, so about a week later, when she was finally back, she DM'd me and I fixed the final bug and showed them the bot. Right away, she said, "Thank you for the bot. Have a great day." Took away my admin role in the server and blocked me. What? However, it didn't occur to her that I might be able to give myself admin with the bot. So I immediately set permissions that everyone that joins the server is set as an administrator. I'm an admin in a bigger Discord server with about 300 members. I mentioned everyone and told them to join the server, and of course, they noticed that they have admin. Within 10 minutes, the server is completely destroyed. I haven't seen their reaction since I left the server, but I bet they'll never scam anyone ever again. Edit. I wasn't clear about the fact that I was not paid, for those who didn't figure that out. Also, thanks so much for the support. This is by far my most popular post ever, so thank you so much. So, like, cool story, bro, but what did the bot actually do? What was the purpose of this bot? That was never covered. Because I can't think of a single task that requires a custom-built bot, aside from, like, one server that I'm in, where you can play, like, this dungeon crawling game with the bot. It's really cool. It's for the Blazing Beaks game server, if you've ever played that game. But I think that largely this story was just put in here so I could plug my own Discord server, which is super awesome. The Dayton Does Super Happy Fun Time Adventure server. Where basically we just talk about, like, you know, video games, mostly. Little bit of Reddit drama, complain about our jobs, show people what we're eating for dinner. There's not really, like, any rules. And that's the only rule, is that there are no rules. I should probably really look into, like, permissions and shit and see if my server could be destroyed like this. But for the most part, I mean, people that join get the friends role. If you've been on one of my videos before, you get the collaborator role. Patrons get a lot of control, but I don't think that they could destroy anything. There's also a role for server boosters, which I think is basically the same as patrons, so I think it's okay. But if anybody gets the Dayton role, then yeah, they could implode the server overnight, which would really suck because we're pushing 100 members, so it's kind of a big server these days, which I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, kind of an inconsequential story. I don't really like stories that take place completely online, you know? I'm more into, like, real life stuff. Largely because I don't get out that much. And if I get stories from the outside world, then I don't feel the need to go into the outside world. You know what I mean? Which is particularly pertinent because Rona's floating around. And with all that said, I think the ranting was longer than the actual story. Lord, let's jump into that last story, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Roommates don't respect my boundaries, so I get them evicted in less than a day. Whoa, how's that even happen? I think evictions take like 3 months. I don't know if this is pro. It is certainly more than petty. Also, I apologize for any formatting. I'm on mobile, and this is my first time posting any sort of longer story. Also, sorry for the long post. Background is pretty important. TLDR at the bottom. My freshman year of college. I went through a long process with my school to be able to live off campus as a freshman. Normally this is not allowed, but they made an exception due to circumstances. Don't get too detailed there, OP. I moved in on a lease takeover as a girl to an all-boy apartment. It was a 4-bedroom apartment that individually leased each room, but 2 rooms shared 1 bathroom, and all the rooms shared a kitchen, living room, and laundry room. This place was gross when I moved in, but I got it cleaned up and got it livable enough. Yeah, you're moving in with 4 dudes? What'd you expect? I grew up with brothers and had no problem with dudes as long as they were decently respectful. Plus, I had the kitchen to myself. I'm also an engineering student and asked them if they'd had their friends over to let me know beforehand or to keep the music below bed rattling. Turns out this exact apartment was known as the party apartment, and I would soon find out why. I was working 8 to 12-hour shifts at retail and then going to school full-time. I'd come home at 11 p.m. exhausted to blasting music and so many people that they were streaming out the front door. I was pissed. Luckily, each room locks with a deadbolt, and I remembered to lock mine before I left for work. There were easily 50 people there. As a 20-year-old who just wanted to sleep, I did the only rational thing I could. I packed an overnight bag, locked my room, and called a friend with an SOS and slept there. I found out later that one of my roommates was dealing. Only 3 people were of legal drinking age, and 1 girl was 14? Yikes. The girlfriend of one of my roommates was still in high school and invited all of her friends, who invited more people. The cops busted the party, but luckily didn't card anyone, so no one was arrested. Now I felt like I could still reasonably deal with this. Then they started to use my things in the kitchen, steal my food, and the last straw was when they dented my kitchen knives that I had just purchased. Brand new knives that now had nicks in the blade like they had sword fought with them. I think they were probably using them for drugs, you know, a little bit of hot knife, you know what I'm talking about? You don't, OP, you a square. Mind you, I communicated all of my grievances that weren't super minor, like using my laundry soap with them, and asked that my boundaries be respected. Their guests would throw up and poop in the toilet. They would try to enter my room to use my bed while I was sleeping. The girlfriend of one even ended up coming into my room to stare at me. I woke up when I forgot to lock my door to tell me that 4 people were coming over. My food and my items were still being taken and damaged, and I grew tired of it all. I attempted to befriend the various roommates in an effort to get them to be more courteous, but the information that I got was even better. Remember how I was a lease takeover? Yeah, our apartment not only required the necessary paperwork, but they also required a lease takeover fee. And I find out that my roommates are friends of the people on the lease. Their friends upgraded to a different apartment complex and didn't want to pay that fee. My roommates hadn't paid the takeover fee or signed any paperwork putting them on the lease, so the original leaseholder wasn't even living there. I kept this information for later. A few weeks pass and the parties are smaller, but still happening. Then one day I'm discussing painting my room due to the marks on the walls from the previous tenant. Our apartment allowed you to paint if it was 1, approved first, or 2, you painted it back before move out. The maintenance guys were super sweet and let me pick a custom color for my room, a pretty light sky blue, bought it for me and helped me paint my room. My roommates find out I painted and ask about it, not knowing what would happen later. They didn't paint their room, they spray painted it. Not with anything vulgar or even gang symbols, but spray painted it. The parties continued, and now they let their guests sign the walls in various Sharpies. This was the moment I realized was the time. I ended up taking pictures of the room on Snapchat and saved them to my camera roll. I knew that my apartment complex wouldn't do anything about the parties, and couldn't even blame me for the underage kids. Plus, the items I stored in the common area were fair game according to legal terms about shared space. I first speak with the building manager about the parties. I was right, there isn't anything I can do but call the cops. I can complain all I want about the condition of the house my roommates cause, and the theft and damage of my belongings, and they won't do anything. They didn't even seem bothered when I spoke to them about 2 out of 4 of us living there not being on the lease. The other one, that was on my side, was chill, so I didn't have a problem with them. As long as rent was paid on time, it seemed like they weren't going to do anything. After all this, I pull out my camera roll and tell this nice lady to scroll as long as she wants, as I took about 15 pictures on just the one room. She gets mad and starts babbling on and on about gang graffiti and how she won't have it. I knew that there were no gang symbols whatsoever on the walls, just dumb kids, but it didn't look good. I didn't correct her, and I reminded her that the rooms in question were the only ones where they weren't even legal tenants here. I locked as much as I could remember to grab of my things from the kitchen in my bedroom beforehand and was headed straight to work, so I didn't get to see the devastation as 2 office workers evict them in hours. They weren't the legal tenants and had clearly stayed over the 7-day guest limit. They had to pack up as much as they could and were out by the time I got home from my shift 10 hours later. I got a lot of hateful and threatening messages from the girlfriend of one of them. I don't remember the exact word, as this was a few years ago, 2016, and I didn't save it for more than a year. I did save them when she started threatening me with stalking and physical harm. I stayed polite and neutral in my responses in case I'd need to take them to court. They did get one small revenge in that I remembered to lock up my pots, but in my hurry I forgot the lids. They stole my lids to all the cookware, even my crock pot. They also took all my food that they could grab and put in the now topless crock pot with all of my spices too and left it on. I'm not sure what liquid was used and I don't ever want to know. But I ended up paying the rent of a 1-bedroom for 4 bedrooms when the last roommate's lease ended a few months later. The rooms were individually leased. The now former roommate's friends that were on the lease had to come in and clean and repaint the walls white. Do you know what happens when you put water-based white paint over red and black colored permanent marker? You can still see the marker? Yeah, he eventually hired a guy to make it look right. I heard it took 9+ layers in some areas, and other areas were entirely spackled. That's not right, but it was like a special paint that wouldn't let the ink from the marker bleed through. Spackled over and it was super thick. I felt bad for the original leaseholders as they were now stuck with the damages, had to repaint, and still had to pay rent on this apartment. I'd met with and was cool with them, even tried helping one guy paint a bunch, and told him that I had no beef with him. I apologized for the way things worked out, and he wasn't happy with me, but also didn't blame me. I reasoned it with they knew that they were breaking the terms of their lease, and exactly who their friends were when they didn't transfer the lease. If they hadn't repainted the room the way that they did, the complex manager wouldn't have done anything. TLDR, roommates didn't respect me or my belongings, so I took the time to befriend them and use what I learned to get them evicted. They had to move in a matter of hours. Edit 1. I got a few comments that the title was my TLDR. First of all, don't want to read? Don't click it. Secondly, I hope this one is better. Edit 2. Someone made an excellent point that the bathroom is the most obvious place to dispose of human waste. My point that I didn't get across was that there was no flushing involved, and a few times, several people's worth of excrement and or vomit would be in the toilet ugh, when I returned home. God. Plunging would work sometimes, other times the clog would have to be removed manually. What does that mean? Oh no. Since it was my half of the apartment, I had to remove the clog before I could do my business. Not the best thing to see first thing in the morning. I don't know, man. It seems like the parties got out of hand and stuff like this, but OP also seems like a bit of a wet blanket. Like, no offense, really. But if you wanted, like, peace and quiet and, okay, this place is only for studying, then why wouldn't you stay on campus? You're like, oh, I want to stay off campus and change the way of life of these other 3 people for seemingly no reason at all. Underage drinking, that's bad. Bringing a 14-year-old girl to a party, that's bad. But disrupting someone else's way of life simply because you can't cope, that's also bad. Just go live on campus, dude. I'm not like much of a party animal, but I also sleep like a log, so maybe OP's like a light sleeper. She legitimately couldn't sleep through heavy music. But hell, if I'm tired enough, that music will become absorbed like into my dream, and it actually helps me drift off to sleep. I think probably because it kind of reminds me of when we were young and my mom was like having trouble with the place to stay, so we'd go into Sizzler and get the all-you-could-eat salad bar, and I would fall asleep like on the bench, and that was basically my sleep for the night. And when we were in the Sizzler, it was like the voices of all the people kind of coalesced into like a relaxing sound, kind of like falling asleep by the ocean, right? And then once the Sizzler actually closed, me and my mom got kicked out. We drive around in the car, and obviously that's also like the sound of the ocean. So I slept pretty good. As a child, I didn't even realize what was going on. Eventually, my grandma stepped in to help us out, but those were some crazy times. So, moral of the story, OP. Basically, your problems ain't really problems. You know, you could have turned the other cheek. You could have taken the high road. To me, this feels more like petty revenge than pro-revenge. But even petty revenge, like, I kind of like. And this pro-revenge story, I'm like, ugh, I don't think me and OP would get along. But I still appreciate you sharing, you know, as we say here. Thanks for sharing, Karen. But no shade, though, for real. We all gotta live, we all gotta sleep. Sometimes in order to live, you gotta disrupt the way that 3 other people are living, for some reason. Oh, whatever. Anyways, I hope you like, comment, and or subscribe if you did enjoy the episode. I know people are gonna drop some dislikes because I came at the OP in the 3rd story. People really hate when I come at the OP, but I just gotta calls it as I sees it. Realistic, relatable Reddit readings. That's what we do here. So if you like it, sub up. And if you don't, that's okay too. It's not for everybody. I also hope that you'll check out the links in the description to Twitter, Discord, and Patreon. And also Dayton Does, my other channel where I do gaming/media related stuff. I'd like to shout out each one of my patrons, whether they became a patron for ReddX or whether they became a patron for Dayton Does. They are equally important to me. So big shout out to you, Just Austin, Robert Allen Waits, Dot Nathan, Crimson Albedo, Lady Nix, Radimus Cisco, Damon Darkstar, and the OG, the oldest of them all, the most stalwart of my allies, Nico, the legend. But really, if you listen this far in the video, then you're a true hero. You know what I mean? I appreciate you guys so much. We are well on our way to 1,000 subscribers. I'm shocked with how fast this channel continues to grow. So thank you so much. Keep spreading the word, and I'll keep making these videos like I do. So until the next time, friends, keep yourselves safe out there. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Because you are loved, you are valued, and you definitely deserve it. I will see you in the next one. And until then, friends, bye-bye. Not the best thing to see not the best thing to see first thing in the morning. God.